Hi, I'm Vicki Abelson, and this is Game Changers. And my guest tonight is Johnny Gale. Johnny, hi.
Hi, Vicki.
I think we're having some audio problems. Oh, see, now it's doubling. We're having all kinds of issues, everybody. So stick with us and keep the faith, because we're going to try and make this work. Johnny, we didn't even have time to like chat and say hello because we were messing with this stuff. Hi.
How's it going, Vicki?
It's good to it's now, do you know, did we meet back in the day?
I think we did. I certainly would, have noticed you. So I think that we did.
Well, I've known who you are for years, and I definitely knew who you were. Hi, Tony. Tony, I'm talking to Tony out here in Facebook land. Is there an issue with the sound, Phil, Tony? Because I'm hearing doubling and all kinds of, we've been trying to straighten out the sound. So tell me, guys, if it's okay. Talk, Johnny, let them hear you.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. How do I sound? More importantly, how do I look?
You look fabulous. What does Billy Crystal say? I was actually in that sketch.
You look marvelous.
You look marvelous. You know, I was in that sketch on Saturday Night Live the first time he did that.
Wow.
Yeah, but you do look marvelous.
You know, I might need my ear trumpet in my ear to hear you, but now your sounds good,
Am I too loud?
Can your viewership hear me clearly?
It looks like that people are hearing, it looks like that they're saying the sound is okay, is good. Okay, so.
Okay, good. Okay.
But we're going to trust that I'm just hearing this messed
up. So let's start off to remind me who I am first. The past half I don't really remember.
All right, I'm going to freak you out because, or maybe I think I'm going to freak you out. I don't know if I can put it on the screen or not, but I can send it to you privately on your phone. So I was listening to an interview you did with Mark Mendoza.
Right.
And at the end of the interview, you started talking about a friend of yours named Vinny Graffeo.
Oh my God. That's where I know you from.
Well, if I know you from that, Johnny, I know you 50 years because Vinny Graffeo was my boyfriend. He was my boyfriend in 1970.
Wow. I just got goosebumps. My bangs just went up like a half an inch.
No, I have to show you a picture. Let me see if I can put this on my screen. This is crazy because Vinny, I'm in his car that the next day he cracked up doing Quaaludes. I did a lot of drugs with Vinny. Did you do drugs with Vinny?
Let me say something. I have a lot of Vinny Graffeo stories. I have a lot of stories.
Okay, so how long do you know Vinny Graffeo?
I met him in 1965.
Oh my God, you know him even longer than I do. Is he still alive?
No, he passed in 1999.
Oh no, of what?
I'm not sure. Maybe OD, but I'm not. And I got a call from Paul Orfino. You probably know him too. And my son was about 4 years old at the time. And as soon as I heard Paul's voice, I knew that. And I went to the funeral and everything. It was really sad. And he was in this casket. And I told his brother Mike, who I adored when I was a kid, I said, they got his hair come wrong. I said, let me at least fix his hair, But
I'm going to show you his hair right now. I'm ready for these 4 pictures and to see if I can share them on the screen. Oh my God, I always suspected that he might not make it very long. Vinny really liked Vinny liked the buzz in a big way.
Well, in the end, I said, I can't hang out with you anymore because we enjoyed each other so much under the influence that the last time I saw him, we were out of control, and I don't want my son to even know because I had too much fun with him. But he was I love the guy. When we met in junior high school, and he was a dear friend, and his brother Mike, was. Oh wow, okay, yeah, I see it.
Okay, so there's Vinny, and then
With his dog Start.
and now, yes, and now I'm gonna share some more. I've got some more. This is crazy that I can do this with you. I don't
There's
know.
some story I can't say in a public forum, you know, that Vinny and I did.
Okay, that
Oh,
was
yeah.
me in Vinny's car.
I
And-
knew you then. I knew you then.
I'm thinking, and Marty, did you know his friend Marty? We don't need the rest of you audience here. Forget it. Go away. No.
Right, Marty Miller. You know,
Yes.
I grew up with those guys.
Okay, wait. Now that one. Oh my God, my beautiful Vinny, the guitar player. Did you play in bands together?
Oh my God, are you kidding? I mean, you know, we opened up for Van Morrison and the Byrds and some at the Schaefer Festival. I did so much with Vinny. Vinny played bass because I guess he felt that I played the guitar better, so he played bass. And Marty was our drummer for a while. Yeah, I mean.
All right, I'm gonna tell you. What's Marty's last name? Say it again.
Marty Miller.
Marty Miller. Okay, so you ready for this? I told somebody today that I wasn't gonna tell this story, but I have to tell you. I was like 16.
Yeah.
It was those crazy days.
Yeah.
And Marty had a girlfriend. I don't remember her name. And did you say it?
No.
Oh, and we swapped in the same room. We were Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. And Vinny got so jealous. It was his idea that he beat up Marty in the room.
Very Graffeo-esque. I knew the whole family. I knew that, you know, Dunny and Pat and his mother worked in the cafeteria of junior high school 74, and his brother Pat worked there. He was there in the custodial business, and his oldest brother. Why am I not remembering his name? He had a brother that was 16 years older than us, Joe Graffeo. So yeah, I knew all those guys, you know.
Oh my God, you are totally freaking me out. I have not, oh my God.
We're the same age. Vinny and I were, you know, exactly the same age. So I think we were a couple
Vinny
years.
was a year old. I'm 65. I was born in 55.
Right. So yeah, I'm 68. Well,
Okay. Vinny was my older man when he was with Jailbait, and I probably met you in Bayside. Oh God, this is crazy. He was in Cordova, right? Cordoza or whatever.
Cardozo.
Cordozo for the bozos.
That's right. And let me tell you, yesterday I did a gig. It was so humid. I was half a bozo. And I came in looking great, and then humidity kicked in, and my hair failed. The music was good, but my hair failed.
Well, you know, the hair is so important, but I like a little humidity now that I'm wearing it curly.
Well, you're in LA, so, you know, today it's like the Amazon jungle here, so.
Oh my God, I bet that's true. All right, so this is wild, Johnny, because I thought I met you in the 80s on the Baker Street scene, because I know we have a lot of mutual friends there, Steve Conti, John Conti, all those guys. And I used to do those jams down at the Rock and Roll Cafe and at the China Club and Woody's and all. And I'm pretty sure you came and played on my stage more than once.
I did.
I'm thinking, yeah.
I used to jam with Tommy Burns and
Oh God, yeah, of course. Those guys, the Tommy and Louis Appel and Tony Bruno. Yes,
they were
yes.
a little younger than me, but yeah, they would invite me up and you know, we did a little drinking back then, so it was you know.
Little bit of drinking. So has that or do you still do a little bit of drinking?
Allow myself one Coors Light at 9 p.m. if it's available. And I have very good self-control, you know. So
Well,
even when I'm out of control, I had good self-control.
Okay, so Tony's saying, what year did you go to Cordoza? Tony, Johnny what year were you in Cordoza?
67 to 71.
Wow. Okay, so I graduated 73. There would have been a little over, but yeah. Oh my God. So Tony Vincent and Cindy Beagle both went to Cordoza also. Oh my God, this is so crazy. This, okay. Hi, sound is good on your end, not as good on his. Yeah, they're having a little trouble with sound, but whatever. We're making it work. Tony graduated the same year. Oh my God. All right. Tony is a rock photographer, and she left high school, I think, to go shoot Poco or something. But anyway, she made that great composite that I posted of you on Facebook today. She put those pictures.
Oh, that's great. That was good. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot of crossover. I thought it started in the 80s. Look at this, it starts in 1970.
Yeah.
That's just wild. All right, so tell me about growing up in Bayside, Queens. Was your family musical? And you tell a lot of stories about your mother. She cracks me up. But was your mother musical?
I came from a very musical family. My uncle, my father's older brother, who we idolized, was in the NBC Orchestra under Toscanini, and then he was in the New York Philharmonic from 56 to 76. My father was a pianist and an architect, and my mother was most talented. She was incredible, musically talented. And she always reminded me that her IQ was 1 point higher than mine.
So it's a Jewish mother?
Yeah, no, they weren't. We weren't that. I really wasn't that Jewish, but they always used to say, "Where did this Italian style thug? Where did he come from?" Because they didn't understand. But it was because the guys that I guess I was drawn to, the lifestyle looked more appealing when I was 11 or 12. Some of those guys, and so some of the Jewish kids that were more studious, not so much. And I picked up a lot of those stylings. Years later, I was with Alan Menken in his compound, and Doug Best, Tommy Mottola says to Alan after like an hour or so, he says, Johnny's Jewish. So Alan pulls his chair up, like he's almost nose to nose with me to study my facial structure, And I said, with Italian stylings, But it's really like a Brooklyn, Queens type thing, and it's fun to do shtick, but I can kind of temper it depending on the room I'm in, so.
Your accent makes me feel very at home. I went to Newtown High School. I lived on 108th and 59th. And this is your voice is very reminiscent of everything I grew up with. So Tony Vincent, by the way, has a yearbook. She graduated in 71 also.
Okay.
All right, she's gonna find you.
Vinny and I were camera shy because long hair, and the photographer wanted us to do something with it, and we said, forget about it. And we never had our picture. And in junior high school, they didn't take our picture because that was the year they transitioned to make high school starting in 9th grade.
Right.
So the first class in there, I had another friend that came to the gig last night, a guy I know since 1962, Steve Mongaluzzo. He went to Cardozo. His sister Joanne Mongaluzzo, you might know them, but they came to the gig last night. And in August of 67, we thought if we break a few windows in high school, maybe it'll delay the opening of the school. But it didn't, But I don't want to implicate myself in something I did, 54 years ago.
Holy I cannot believe how our paths have crossed over the years. That's just wild. So
Vinny and I were best friends. I mean, we were like inseparable. And, so that whole crowd, Dennis Levine, who became infamous in 1986 when he was the first person to get taken down for insider trading. Dennis went into finance. He was our keyboard player and came from a family that had a little more money, so he had a nice basement that we used to rehearse in. Originally in 1966, he had Playboy centerfolds wallpaper in the walls, but then when the drug craze came in, it was all Gale posters and black lights. So we had a producer come to see us, and he he was in the record business. He was older, but he came in. He must have been tripping because I remember he said, "Wow, oh wow! I never was in a situation where I was doing live rock music," and he was so blown away by it. So he brought us into the studio. This is in 1968, and his name was Jerry Samuels, but he was also known as Napoleon the 14th. So they're coming to take me away. So I did his follow-up record on Warner Brothers, For God's Sake Stop the Feces, and it was never released, but Rhino released it in 1995. So a friend of mine played it, and I heard myself, when I was 15 playing around, and it cracked me up. But Jerry he also was a serious composer, so he wrote The Shelter of Your Arms for Sammy Davis Jr., which is a song that really tugs on your heartstrings. And so he did that, but I met him in a drug era, so he was a piece of work. I remember being in the studio, and I was in there for days, and I called my mother from the payphone, and she said, "What are you doing?" She was worried. I said, "Well, we're making a record." And she didn't know it. What does that mean? So when I finished, I asked Jerry about, well, you're going to pay me? What are we doing for remuneration? He said, well, Gloria, that was his girlfriend, she really digs you. And I got a sleeping bag in Studio B. And let me tell you, Gloria was not appealing, And I remember being there with Vinny, and we're in a session of passing the pipe around, and we take a couple of hits, and then Vinny asked me, he goes, "How you feeling?" I said, "Let's get out of the control room." And it wasn't part of it, we're smoking hard, right? Which was THC treated spearmint leaves or whatever. It was angel dust. So we were sitting in the lobby and we were hallucinating, and we were like laminated to the chairs.
Oh, God, that's my Vinny.
The guy comes in and asks, "You want some white chocolate?" I said, I didn't know that was a thing at the time. This is, we were like 16 years old,
Right.
But I mean, this is, it's a long time ago. I think about, my son is 27, and he's been around a while. And this is, he wasn't even a thought back then so long ago, So, but yeah, we were in shelter. My mother always used to say, you grew up like a dead end kid. I grew up in Kew Gardens, and then I moved from Kew Gardens to Bayside in '62. So the first month we were there, my mother drove us from the old neighborhood every morning because so this way we didn't have to start that new school a month late. So he listening to the radio every day. I was always tuned into the radio and American Bandstand. So
Oh yeah,
it was a good era. Hearing Frank Ifield singing "I Remember You" and the Exciters and Steve Lawrence. So, we started there, and a guy that came last night with his sister, he's 7 months older than me. She's 7 months younger than me. I haven't seen him in 50 years. They came to my gig last night because they live out in Hampton. And so they had a great time, and it was fun seeing them. And it's just wild when you know somebody. I know the guy we used to play together in 1962, I had a cousin that worked for Remco, and he would always bring me the coolest toys. So, we get them and then we'd break them. So, but,
I can remember going to a party and I think Marty had a finished basement or somebody else in the band.
Yeah.
I met you in 1970. That is so crazy. All right, that is flipping me out. So
I haven't matured since then. I'm the same guy. It's like people ask me how old I am. So I'm 68, but I only act around 66.
I'm wearing the same jeans. No, kidding.
Yeah.
I might as well. I have some of those, I think, still. So John, so when did you? So you have this musical family.
Yeah.
When did it hit you? When did you start playing?
I first played the clarinet.
Me too.
Yeah, and I learned to read notes in it. But then my cousin that gave me a nylon string guitar. It was before the Beatles, So I learned a couple of, like, there was a woman my mother got me hooked up with that was a few blocks away. Her name was Mrs. Porcelain. And she taught me a few open position chords. And I used to walk up there, and when I learned the chords, I remember teaching her. I didn't teach her the modulations because I wasn't that sophisticated, but I taught her I Walk the Line with Johnny Cash. She didn't know the song. So I was able to do it just in one key, you know.
Right.
He dug it, and so anyway, you know, after the Beatles came out and we saw the Dave Clark Five and the Stones, I would fantasize about being in the Dave Clark Five. I wanted to be the guy playing Any Way You Want It, or you know, Glad All Over, Bits and Pieces. And I was in bands. I had a band in '66 because we were called the 11th Commandment, and we had band cards and telephone numbers, and you know, and one guy, Alan Lefton, he's on Facebook all the time. He was our drummer. He's a bass player now, but in those days he was a drummer. And so once in a while I can communicate with him. A lot of the people that I know along the way are not here anymore, you know, but I used to play band battles in junior high school and church socials, like CYO dances. And this guy last night, we did a CYO battle of the bands. It was a rigged contest because the judges, one of them was Mike Graffeo, who was a buddy, and it's got Mark Miller. So we played at the St. Margaret's Church in Fresh Meadows in May of '67. I remember my mother dropped me off and she said, have a good time. And I had a pompadour and a DA and a Garrison belt and you know, the style of the time. So we still were playing like Louie Louie and Hanky Panky and Hanging on Sloopy. And there was another group there called Farley Bluff. And they had their keyboard player was Al Greenwood, who went on to play in Foreigner. And
Yeah.
They were progressive. They were playing A Whiter Shade of Pale, which just came out then. And the kids, the place was like sardines because it was so popular. It was so happening then. And the kids were still with hearing, you know, Louie Louie. They didn't care about the Procol Harum yet. You know, maybe
Right.
but you know, we won. And it was the first time I sang to, I was a singer, and I accompanied myself on rhythm guitar. I was the youngest in the group, and I sang to an Echoplex. And I remember I'm a real mimic, so I had some new power that, you know, I never sang to an Echoplex before. It was really exciting. So, but the band was Steve Mangaluzzo on drums, who was a killer, Artie Villabosian on bass, Mike Sullivan on lead guitar, and me on rhythm guitar and vocals, you know, so.
Wow.
So,
did you study? Are you self-taught? How did you learn guitar, Johnny?
I studied like stylings more of thugs about guitar. This guy Steve Isaacson, who recently I reconnected with, he was, I think he's a year older. He played me. I was with Mangaluzzo, and he played us the Fresh Cream album. And so I heard NSU and Sleepy Time, and I played like Gene Cornish, you know, before. And, you know,
another friend from Bleecker Street, Gene.
Oh yeah, I know Gene. Gene's a dear friend. So I have a million Gene stories, but anyway, so this guy, when I heard that, it was like you know, the ground opened up in me. So I was in another band with this guitarist who was a little more advanced than me. He was older, and he was bending strings with vibrato, and he had a Manny's fuzz tone plugged into a Strat. So I just watched him, and I took to it like a bird takes to flying because I could sing. And so I made that leap. I remember I used to be in the Vagrant fan club, and they went from being like nerds to I saw them at the Singer Bowl in September of '67. Rascals headlined the show, and they were on the bill. And Leslie West like made that transformation because he heard Clapton and he became Leslie West. Because before then I used to see them, and he was just like you know, black horn rim glasses and nerd. I think so. But
God, somebody who did my show taught Waddy Wachtel taught Waddy taught Leslie how to play guitar I
Well,
think.
they lived in Rego Park in the same apartment building. And I guess he was more advanced, even though Leslie was a little older. But
Right.
Waddy was a little more advanced. So Waddy moved out to the West Coast, which was a brilliant move, like in the early 70s. And then he
Right.
got plugged into a scene because we were still like mooks from Queens, you know. So, but you know, we were, you know, my friend Steve had a scrapbook that was unbelievable. We were so into, and I was into older music because I have this incredible autobiographical memory of early childhood. So I knew every song on the radio when I was
Okay,
3, 4, 5 years
so
old.
wait, so how did you tap into doo-wop? Did you do it as you were coming up, or did you go back and become a fan?
No, I heard it on the radio. I was there, and some of the underground stuff I discovered later on WFUV, like in 1966. My father had a FM shortwave radio, and I tuned in and I found this show called the Time Capsule Show with these two Italian guys that played this underground stuff, and I would make notes. I still have them in my drawer, over 500 obscure, like underground doo-wop, you know, records.
Wow.
But I knew whatever, if it was on the radio, you know, like Johnny Tillotson or Jimmy Charles or the Impalas, whatever was popular. And when I think of the song, I can remember the whole batch of songs that was out for every season of that year, starting around 58. You know, so
Wow.
you know, so yeah, before I played, I was a fan. I played a lot of records. I'll tell you that. A lot of records.
And how did the singing happen? Was it organic, or did you study voice? Where did that come from?
Studied hoods, but my voice came from imitating like Vito Balsamo from Vito and the Salutations, or Larry Chance from the Earls. So I heard their, and then when the Vanilla Fudge showed up on the scene, I said, those guys, you know, they were singing, those were their influences. So they were like, they had this amalgam of like Grease and rock, you know. So I was with that. I was friends with the Soul Survivors. It was the same thing. They grew up, you know, teenagers of the 50s. And I produced an album with Jimmy Braylauer for those guys. That's, you know, they were incredible. Richie passed away. Let me see, I have his picture on in 2017. He was incredible. He was a younger brother. He was the guy that sang the bridges on his first Video Heart. And Charlie's still around. You know, he's 10 years older than me. And great guy. I love those guys, you know. And so I have a million stories. You know, when we get off this public forum, we can chat.
Oh, we can talk about the others. Well, I want you to give me all. We have a lot. We have so much overlap. Angel Rissoff. We'll get to Angel.
Yeah.
Jay Black was married to a family friend, and I know, and Kenny Vance. There's so much stuff. Before we get to all of that, because the people that watch this show, Johnny, we call ourselves the COVID crazies. When COVID started, I started going live every day, just to kind of, you know, connect with people and be of service.
Yeah.
So what were you doing when the pandemic hit? Were you working? Were you in the middle of something? What happened with you?
I was doing incredible. I mean, I was like on fire with getting, you know, so much work and getting calls for so much stuff, and then it stopped, and all I did was I just did pull-ups. I did this jailhouse workout, and then and I said, if I'm stuck here, I'm gonna do what they do in jail, you know. So I'm feeling strong and trying to be positive, and I'm finished working out. I'm on the couch, and my son says, can you get me the remote control? And I was lazy. I reached backwards, and that was that. So I tore my rotator cuff in my left shoulder. It probably was on this way, but yeah, I was very busy, you know, with Kenny and with Stuart Lorman, who's a dear friend of mine, a Grammy winning producer, working for Martin Scorsese and Mrs. Maisel.
Oh my God. Okay, so we have to talk about all of those things. How did The Irishman come about, and what was it like? I interviewed Little Steven in the 80s, and you did that great number with him in The Irishman, but you were also the musical director. So how did you get that gig?
We actually, the tracks that you hear in the movie, you see the band, and then we're all miming the tracks, but I actually played on them, you know, and we went into this, it was about 3 weeks before we filmed, so it was very fresh in my mind. We got 7 songs. They asked me for some suggestions, and I suggested the ones that I liked, which 3 of them made the movie, you know, but so they wanted me to be in the band for authenticity because it would, you know, I played it. So,
Right.
but so I told the one was musical supervisor, and I told her, you got to protect my hair. I said, because it was supposed to be 1974. So I knew when I went in for the costume fitting at Kaufman Studios in Astoria that they were going to say, you know, your hair's too long. So so I went in and I said, well, you know, so I called her. I said, Meg, you got to protect my hair. So she said, well, do you want to wear a wig for a wig? I said, oh, you know what? Forget it. I said, oh, I got a low system in here. So anyway, they sent me up to an office, and the guy just cut my hair dry in the office. And he said, okay, he said, I love the way my hair, he loved the way, he said, I love your look. But he said, you really have a lot of nerve to do this. He cut it and he said, you can go. I said, I don't think so. I said, send it upstairs because they're going to want to short it. And 20 minutes later, I went and he just hacked it all off. So we saw in the movie.
It looks great. It looks great.
Well, it was like supposed to be 1973. So, you know, I had like, you know, I could take a walk on the wild side. My hair was a little over my ears, you know, but so yeah, we did that. It was interesting. I've been asked to do some film work, but I always shied away from it. So particularly when I was going through a divorce, because I didn't want my ex to think that I was like some big shot, and that's another story. But yeah, this
How did you get Martin Scorsese? I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that.
I did the last season of Boardwalk Empire.
Right.
And, I did the vocal arranging, and I sang, and I played guitar and some stuff. And then we got vinyl, right? So I did the pilot for that, and I did the whole. And we were hoping that would run for a long time, but sadly it didn't. And then the Irishman came, and first, you know, we did the recording, and I hired some people like Chris Palmero, the keyboard player, was unbelievable, and we have an amazing repertoire of wise guy behavior, and they had, you know, the New York Philharmonic string section. It was, you know, we're serious, and unbelievable band. And Stuart Lerman produced, and Randall Poster was a music supervisor. But they really trusted me, you know. So and then I did the filming, and it was, you know, I had like to be up. You know, it was a 5 a.m. call, which I'm really not like a morning guy at all. I wasn't a morning guy in junior high school. I would watch Wheel Camp, you know, and then watch Modern Farmer, and then my father would say, "Get up." It's another story. But anyway, we did. It was interesting to watch them do that. One of his main assistant director knew me, and he was really sweet, and he really liked me. And it was a lot of downtime. I hung out with Al Pacino for about 20 minutes. I had met him a month after 9/11 at De Niro's house. We played at Harvey Keitel's wedding. So I met some of those guys back then, but I did a bunch of things for Scorsese. And then I got this Mrs. Maisel gig for some other people. And they called me during the pandemic, but they stipulated that I would need to, it was a SAG gig, and but they stipulated that I need to do 2 days of testing at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, COVID testing prior to the session, and I had to be there before 11 a.m. So I just like, I crunched the numbers, and I said, you know what, I'm sorry, I just, regrettably, got to pass on it. But I was really busy leading up to this, and then now, I have some private, clients that are like, they're like regular people that I still am active, but I'm not doing that, film work or TV and that kind of. And Kenny they obviously haven't done anything. I have Kenny's doing a documentary that I kind of help him as a consultant on.
So okay, so when COVID happened, all the gigging you were doing and the projects that you were doing stopped. And so what was your life like? I mean, you have some private clients, you were saying. So did you have fear? Did you stay home? Did you do lockdown? Did you?
Of course. I mean, I'm damaged and traumatized from this whole thing, and I have a son who's like really hypochondriacal guy. So he was terrified. He fortunately could work remotely, so he's been working remotely. Just went back to the office this week.
Wow.
But I became like the guy like sitting and watching the Rifleman. So I was, living my childhood with Big Chuck, but and I recorded some episodes, and last night I got back from the studio. I was so spent. I put them on, and I tell you, both episodes, I was crying at the end. I'm such a sap, but it was, they always would have like, I love the dynamic between him and his son, Johnny Crawford, and it still holds up. I really have I look like a little bit of a hard personality, but I have a soft heart, Vicki,
Aw. So how did it feel? How does it feel? How long have you been back out there gigging?
With the pandemic, you mean?
Whoever you
gigging
now.
Yeah, I've been doing. We've been gathering. I've been creating content for one project. It's called That Motown Band. It's a Motown tribute act, but it's very authentic, and we're very respectful of those arrangements. So
I watched a few videos today. They're fabulous. Yeah.
So we're America's greatest Motown tribute band. So the guy that is spearheading it, he's in the private sector, a great guy, and so I'm musical director and created all these recordings, and we did these Hollywood Squares COVID videos, and now we're doing some, and he's been booking jobs. He's got a couple in California, a couple in Chicago. So people are loving what they're hearing. I said, now all we got to do is make sure that when we come and play live, that we did trick them, and we got to be good, So, but we have this singer from Philadelphia, Garfield Fleming, who I discovered on Facebook. And I said, it's David Ruffin reincarnated. I couldn't believe that. I said, there's no way simpler. And this guy he's an incredible singer, incredible performer, and an incredible human.
Wow.
I can't say enough about this guy. So that's who we worked with last night. We do with them, and people love it, and all these songs are high recognition hit songs, and they're timeless, So I bring in a few that are like the guys in the group didn't know. They were a little young to know them, but they grew to love them, because they're just great songs. Holland Dozier and Holland, Smokey Robinson, and when they're writing songs, and with that production team and the musicians, I mean, those guys like swung their asses off. So it's just, I still listen to those records, and then I have these, it's just vivid. They just bring back vivid memories for me, and they still excite me, when I hear them. So
that's fantastic.
Am I talking too much?
No, you're answering my questions. It's great. So being in a gig now, I'm very curious. I haven't gone to a concert yet. I haven't gone to a club yet. I haven't gone to a movie yet.
Yeah.
Do you feel safe? Do you feel okay?
Well, I was vaccinated early. Somebody got a hook up to me in January. I hope it's still good. There was a woman had to make sure she kissed me on the lips last night. So right as I was going to the car, so I put my lips on. Just when I got in the car, I put Purell on them. I mean, that's how traumatized we are. And
yes,
the gig we did before, one of the guys was he didn't do well on the gig, and he was coming in. He was so upset, and I told him, I'm wearing saliva all over my face. I said, I hope you're okay. I said, because I don't need to have that kind of problem. So far, I'm knock wood, I'm okay. But this has just been too much, the whole thing. I don't want to get.
Have you gotten on a plane? Have you gotten on a plane yet? Are you
No, no.
Are you concerned about that?
I'm concerned about everything. You know, yeah.
So was it crowded? Were there a lot of people on top of each other and all of that?
I was doing the recording sessions, and one of them, we were in close quarters. So there was a technician and an assistant engineer. So I get a text, a very offhanded text, say, so-and-so has COVID. I was with him for 3 hours, and we had masks, and he had an N95 on, and he wasn't facing me. So immediately, I was terrified. So I went, I got tested, and I came up negative. So I dodged the bullet there.
Thank God.
It was right after it was 4 days after the first vaccination. So I said, it would be a hell of a thing that I've gotten through this unscathed. And as soon as I get vaccinated, then I catch this thing. So, and this guy had all kinds of side effects. He had TIA. It was a mess, So, but I'm fortunate that the people I enjoy, everybody I work with now, it's not like the old days when we had bands and like one guy hated another guy. I have a lot of band stories. If I have about 1,000 hours, I got 1,000 hours of Vinny Graffeo stories. So
I want to hear some of them. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So all right, so let's run through some of the people that you play. So Johnny, you are, I don't want to say you're underrated, because to everybody that knows you, you have like, you have iconic status for anyone that's ever heard you play. So I don't feel like you're underrated. I feel like people know what your value is. But there are people, but I feel like you should be in the, with the Claptons and the, you should be in that group. You're a great rock and blues guitarist. Just fabulous.
Not gonna be, because I'm on your show. So now
So when Gale Force came out,
yeah,
it gets voted best guitar record of that year by Guitar Magazine. So Daddy Longlegs, I mean, it's just, this is unbelievable playing. And okay, so you have your solo thing that you've done through the years, but then you've also had incredible collaborations through your career. So I see that you played with Ringo. What was that about? When was that?
Well, Mark Rivera, but I wasn't actually in the room with Ringo.
Okay.
I had written a song with Jimmy Bredelauer.
Yeah.
And we had a track, and actually, like, they liked it more than I did the track. There was 3 that we went on Mark's solo record, but they really liked this track. So I said, okay. So Mark obviously had a relationship with Ringo, so they sent it out, because these days, everybody does stuff electronically. So Ringo played, you could definitely hear it's Ringo. So it was me, and at the time, I was going through, it was like a perfect shitstorm. So I was going through, it was like in the middle of a divorce, and I had a bunch of other things going on. So they had an overdub session at the power station. So they got Steve Conti played guitar solo over my track, and I think they had Charlie Drayton come in to play on it. But anyway, it became like the track that they were pushing. I did some gigs with Mark. We played the cutting room, and I think the 3rd time I finally got it under control with this. So he had a videographer come in and able to film it, because the band was incredibly loud. The first time I played with him, I'm still have damage from that. And I'm like always the father figure. Like I turn my little speaker backwards, to not add to the fray. But at any rate, Mark, we made a pretty nice record. I wasn't so much a part of it, because I was going through some other things, but I do have 3 co-writes on it, and I played guitar on it and bass and whatever. So
fantastic. How about, so I see that you, I don't know what your association with Phoebe Snow is, but I knew Phoebe back in the late 80s and hung out for a while. What was your relationship with Phoebe?
our relationship was that I used to make her laugh so hard that she would pee herself, you know.
Oh,
But I worked with her with Jimmy Braylower, and it ended up like she just wanted to hang. So we'd go out and we'd get hamburgers, you know, and
the best.
yeah, no, she was, great hang. She was having, I gave her like a consultation on regularity because I was trying to help her out a little bit, and I got her some stuff, and then she said, "I like it. You take it." I said, I'm okay. You know, I got that. I figured that out. I figured it out in 1968, and I'll tell you, Vicki, I saw like in the supermarket the cereal called Old Brand, and it said the natural laxative cereal. I said, that intrigued me, so I bought it, and I had a big heaping bowl, and I went to school, and then I came home. There were 2 ways I would come home, but this day I came home the long way by Springfield Boulevard, and then as I'm walking, something happened to me, something that I never felt before, like my water broke. So
God.
I tried to squeeze my cheeks together and see if I could run home, but I knew it wasn't happening. So I ran into the Chinese hand laundry. They didn't speak a word of English, and I knew that their son was a real hood, you know. And I just ran in and I said, "Bathroom," and I dressed and I'll never forget. It's even more vivid, but I won't go into that for other time. But yeah. So anyway, I helped Phoebe out with that. I tried to, and we wrote some songs, and I used to make her laugh, and that was the best medicine for all of us. You know, and we wrote some stuff, but we did the last recording she ever made. We did a version for her. It's All in the Game, one of my favorite childhood songs. That was a monster hit in the fall of 1958. Tommy Edwards, may he rest in peace. Loved it. The words, lyrics didn't mean much to me then. I just associated with the affection I had for my father, oddly enough. I used to love to rub his head. We had crew cuts, but that song was out at a time when Valori by Domenico Modugno was out, and Elvis Presley, A Hard-Headed Woman. And 58 was a big year for kids in rock and roll and hula hoops, but anyway, she loved the song, and we did a version of it. It was the last thing she ever recorded, and I do have it. I did it with Jimmy Braylower, and I played guitar and bass, and she sang. I had to transpose it to a key that was a little bit harder for me, but we did it because that's what we do. But yeah, she was great. I mean, she was tremendous fun, and it was very sad when she passed. Very sad.
Very, very sad. How about Cyndi Lauper? What was your relationship?
We used to date, and she reminded me. I did like the Today Show with her, and she said, last time I saw her like in person was 2004, but she said to the band when we were getting ready to go on the air, she said, me and Johnny used to date. I said, well, why don't we still do that? She said, well, I'm married. So I said, all right. But anyway, I met her. I was with a group called Baby, and she had a group called Doc Holiday, if my memory serves me right. And she would come to gigs, and she liked the way I played or the way I looked. She'd be in front of me going, "Do it, Johnny," and we became friends. In 1980, I hadn't seen her in a few years. I'm in a diner on Queens Boulevard, and I hear from across the diner, "Johnny Gale." So it's her. She has a band called what's the Roy Orbison song? Blue. What was her name? See, I'm having a senior moment now. That's crazy. My mind's flooded with thoughts. But anyway, she had a band, and John Tory was in it, and she said, "No one will book us, no one can get us gigs." So I got to think of the song. Sha-la-la, doo-wop, dum-dum-dum, yep, Blue Angel.
Blue Angel. Yeah, sure.
She couldn't get arrested, so I said, I'll see what I can do. And this group I was with at the time, Samantha, we had a steady Thursday that speaks. So Phil Bastille, ran the place. And so I talked to Phil, and I got them to open up for us. And so, and they were great. I said, all right, maybe it was a mistake, a professional mistake. They were really great. And I remember she did lipstick on your collar, and she was a great performer, and she was a killer, you know. And I remember, you know, we'd go out and I'd be at her house in Woodhaven, and she would find these eclectic people in that neighborhood, really a blue collar area. But she found these artful people there, and she introduced me to them. And we go to the museum. You know, she was really, you know, something special. And she had a burning desire, which I never had, to be famous. I'm the worst self-promoter. She had the burning desire. And I sang on her epic send-off album. I'm doing a lot of background vocals on it. And I sang with her at Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
They did a benefit there in 2000, and I did a duet with her, you know, and I had an F sharp. I just was worried about being able to hit that F sharp, you know, in full voice, but it worked out fine. And she told me afterwards, she goes, "You're the only one that helped me when no one else would." You know, she remembered it. It was, you know, in 1980, and now it's like, I guess 20 years later, you know, yeah, 20 years later. So
I think Cyndi got screwed because she came out at exactly the same time as Madonna.
right.
And Madonna just it was like Cyndi was the one with the voice, Cyndi was the one with the talent, and Madonna just steamrolled over everything.
His manager told me that if you think Cyndi was ambitious compared to Madonna, she said Madonna was talk about a burning desire. I mean,
Yeah.
Cyndi was, you know, not ambitious at all compared to her. So she really, you know, got blown up to, you know, the heights that you know, the biggest you can be show business. Obviously, Cyndi was huge. I mean, Cindy's a real talent, and just was a real special person. And I was happy that I was in the right place, you know, for us to be friends. And we were dating for a while, and I remember Bill Whitman, a producer, said when I was recording, doing vocals for her in her garage, she had a studio in there. She said that I was the only one that used the bathroom in her house. So no one else is allowed to do that. And I said, well, okay, she knows that I was. I helped her when she needed help.
You know Kevin Jenkins, the bass player?
I know his name. I can't say that I know him.
Kevin played with Cyndi when she was back then. And I met Cyndi when our sons were interviewing for preschool. We had to be at a parent interview. That was pretty wild to see her in that light. Yeah, that was.
She's a regular. She lives in Woodhaven off Jamaica Avenue, and she, in this real blue collar area. When I was a little kid, I went to Forest Park Day Camp, which was down the block from where she lived, and for 1 month in July of '58. And I told you I have these crazy, vivid memories of childhood, you know. Mm-hmm. And so she lived in that area. And in '65, we were members of the Cypress Hill swimming pool, which was down further west from Woodhaven. You across the street from Franklin K. Lane High School, which was like backward jungle, you know, and like really rough kids, it was like going to Cardozo, you know. So, but we went to that pool. And there were still gangs around then. There were Hispanic or Puerto Rican gangs, and the L ran right over the pool, so they were light bulbs down on us. And I remember they had a shootbox, and I watched the 15-year-old girls dancing a woolly bully and Satisfaction, you know, and I'm a Happy Man by Jive 5. Vivid memories. I went there 100 years later to buy a guitar from a friend that lived on Woodhaven Boulevard, south of there. And I took my son, who was a kid then, and I said, I want to show you where this pool was that we were belonged to when I was 12. So I'm looking all over and it's not there. So I meet up with this guy. We had dinner first. My son liked this Chinese buffet. So I took him there. Then we went to buy a Telecaster, which I've done many times. And I asked the guy, I said, what happened to the Cypress Hill swimming pool? He said, the Cypress Hill swimming pool, he said, that hasn't been there for 40 years. It was like Twilight Zone episode. So he said, and I told him about this gang. He said, it was like West Side Story there, for real, Another girlfriend in 1980, and I woke up one day early and I was exhilarated. And I said, look, I want to go to Clef Music on Jamaica Avenue. And she didn't know, so I brought her there and I couldn't find it. So I went into a pawn shop and the guy said, Clef Music? That guy closed in 1967. So I was, in the Twilight Zone. I was been in my own little bubble,
How about our mutual friend, Angel Rissoff? What was that relationship?
I met Angel. He was playing with Rob Stoner at, it was before it was the Rock and Roll Cafe. What was it called before?
It was The Other End.
Right. So I went in one night. I had like 2 chicks with me, and I went in and they were singing, those guys. So they did We Belong Together, but Robert and Johnny. So I was such a freak for that stuff. So then I just remembered Angel, and I played in a band with Harvey Brooks. We went out as the Electric Flag, and I played the Mike Bloomfield character. So this was shortly after. Angel was the lead singer. So we connected then, and then he loved the same music I did, rhythm and blues, doo-wop. We didn't call it doo-wop in the old days, but rock and roll, rhythm and blues. So I went to his house, and he was playing me his records at the time. I just had foot surgery, and so he was so pumped up the way I am now. I couldn't talk. I just couldn't talk. And he had some cool records, and so we ended up becoming friends. I got into this group that I started with a guy named David Foreman, who was a songwriting partner called Little Isidore and the Inquisitors. And Angel got involved in that. We became very popular in that. I produced 2 records for Angel that he got some really good recognition from. And he wasn't happy with me while it was going down, but I said, when it's over, mother's gonna love it, and it's gonna be great. And it was for him, and he was really, a real talent, and
He had an unbelievable voice, unbelievable.
And he was the coolest looking guy, He looked like, there was only one tougher looking Jewish guy that I ever met, And I used to bring him to shows. I did shows at Symphony Space. I would do these doo-wop shows, and he lived on the West Side, Upper West Side, so I'd pick him up, and I would bring him to, because he enjoyed it, and we played with some really eclectic people. So I remember he'd be yelling out the window, of course, he was a real Bronx guy, and but he was, he was cool. The guy was the coolest looking guy, and he could sing, so he was like a chick magnet, and I like to always be around those chick magnets.
Angel was quite the lady killer in the day.
Yeah.
I remember it well. And so how about Ronnie Spector? How did you start producing? Wait, before we talk about Ronnie, how did you go from being this kid playing a nylon string acoustic guitar and singing to being this incredible lead guitar player who also produced and composed music?
Didn't happen overnight.
Right.
For many years, I was with this guy through our management, David Foreman, aka Little Isidore. So we had written a couple of songs, and he was eager to record them. And he had recorded some stuff on his own. He was in the jingle business, and I told him that he could use a producer, so he trusted me. And I went in and I produced 2 songs for him, one called Go, and the other was called I Pray For You. We did I Pray For You with Steve Love's Loft. Steve Love was with the group, they had a hit, Louie, but not Louie the Kingsman, Louie, that one.
Oh, I love that song. Yeah.
Steve was in that group. So we went and we recorded it. It was a very crude recording of I Pray For You. We did go in Louise Messina's studio, and he trusted me to produce it. So it evidently came out so great because I carry all these sounds in my head. there's no like methodology or procedural thing for me.
I was going to say, did you you can't, how did you know, was it instinctual to just know what to do?
Well, I know music from a technical sense, you know, so combined with the sonic landscape that I have in my head, and I would work, if I had, you know, a good technician, we would create some nice, vivid, landscapes. And once I did that, then I did 2 Little Isidore and the Inquisitors albums. I got like acclaimed, this Green album we did, like Felix Hernandez called it the Sergeant Pepper of Doo-wop. And we were writing those songs and singing them. And I did them, I found a room in Orange, New Jersey, that was Herman Lubinsky's room with Savoy Records. And so I used a lot of room and sound like they did in the old days. So I would record and use the room to create the sound, you know, and it's a long story, but anyway, Don Morello, the drummer, who was a monster, he was on the first floor. He had a drum teaching studio there, and he heard something. He was blind. He came up and he said, "I'm hearing things I like," and because I was doing all this swinging and stuff, and I was by myself. I remember a woman fan came by and she said, "You know, where are the guys?" And it was like I'm sitting in a spaceship with a technician and creating this stuff, you know. So, and the song that we did, Angel did a song called Harlem Hit Parade. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it became a staple in the beat. I bumped into the beach music scene through it. I'd heard about it, but we were given an assignment from Felix Hernandez to do a bunch of bumpers for his radio show, the Harlem Hit Parade, and to write a theme song. So I drove with David Foreman in a blizzard to the studio in New Jersey, and whoever showed up got on the record. Some of the guys didn't show up. So it ended up that we wrote this song called Harlem Hit Parade. I created the tracks, and an Angel sang it, and like put him on the map. I mean, they what people went wild. And I said to Angel, we were doing, you know, high flyers. I said, man, if this was like 1955, we would have a bona fide hit record, you know. And it was really, a lot of it was luck. That's like it was just a great capture, you know. And we also did that, and I did about 31 bumpers that we just made up on the spot, you know. I'm blessed that I haven't lost my creativity, you know. So whatever that is, you know. But Angel got to be there. We made the record. And the rest, I mean, you can, you know, go on YouTube, Harlem Hit Parade, Angel Rissoff, or Little Isidore and Inquisitors. It's a killer, you know.
I'm definitely going to check out the Harlem Hit Parade. And how did it lead to Ronnie Spector? How did that relationship happen?
So we had a manager, one of many, her name Janet Usseroff. Janet was a fan of Little Isidore and Inquisitors. She used to come to our gigs. And so she managed Ronnie. So we first got together with Ronnie in a hotel room, and they told Ronnie about me, like my knowledge of, like vast knowledge of rock and roll. So she wanted to be doing a show at the Bottom Line, and she wanted to do an a cappella segment. So we worked out a couple of Frank Lyman and Teenage songs, and we did them. I know it was a long time ago, maybe 1996, something like that. And so we did ABC's Love, and one I can't remember, but I developed this long-standing relationship with her and her husband. And I produced a Christmas record for her. They told me they didn't want it to be Spector-esque, so it was a real departure from that. And it was Christmas Once Again. It was originally recorded by Tommy Edwards and Frankie Lyman. They had him recorded in '57, I guess. So I kind of modeled it on that arrangement, and she killed it. And I played a couple of gigs before we locked down. I filled in. Her husband John called me. I was in the studio. I said, "We need you." We had a mix-up. Our guitar player's going to be in China, and we're playing Westbury Music there. and this big outdoor jamboree in Connecticut. I forgot what it is. A big outdoor festival. So I immediately got my anxiety quotient, like went on the scale of 1 to 10, went to like 260, you know. He said, it's fine. You know, this stuff's in your DNA. I said, I don't know all your segues. I don't know, you know, rhythm of the show. So we had a rehearsal. It went great. You know, they loved it. I had a ball. I taught them the happy organ and played it, and it was a gas, you know, and she loved it. So they wanted me to be with her, but you know, I did something for her, some triage work on a recording she did. They didn't want me to change anything. They wanted me to augment it without really changing it. So I did that for her. I don't want to mention the names because I don't want to piss off anybody, but at any rate, yeah, I've had a long-standing relationship with her.
And speaking of Christmas, it makes me think of Darlene Love because I saw her do the
Right.
Christmas show at Letterman every year. When anyway, so what's your relationship with Darlene Love?
I've worked with her a bunch of times. I did a show with her. I was musical director for a PBS show with Foxwoods in November of 2000.
Mhm.
And I got Lala Brooks on the show because Gladys Horton from the Marvelettes fell out at the last minute. So I had met Lala through Jack Nietzsche, and he told me that she was dynamite. And she ended up being incredible. I mean, she was the voice of the Do Run Run. And then,
Right.
so Darlene was on the show. We did 14 songs that were incredible, and they aired 3, you know. So, but yeah, it was, you know, and I played with her in Key West. I filled in. I did it. It was a private affair for very, very affluent people. That each person had their own private jet, you know. And
Wow.
so I bought all the records. 1963. It was a record store in Springfield Boulevard. It was on Horace Harding called Larry's Records. This ties to the Vinny Graffeo, by the way. So every time like he's a rebel. I didn't know it was Darlene Love because it was sold as crystals. Zippy Doo-wop, all the Bobby Sox and the Blue Jeans records. And then when she finally had a record under her name, like Wake My Bobby Gets Home, I had all her records. I was a huge fan of Darlene's. Anyway, Larry's record store, he had pictures on the wall of all these local groups. So in 1965, I saw this group. The name was the Court Jesters, and it was Vinny Graffeo. He was very precocious. He was, you know, for guys 12 years old, with the older guys that were 15, 16, which was a big difference then.
Right.
He had a Garrison belt on. They were like, kind of like Rich Rider into the Detroit Wheels. And Vinny was cool, you know? So I was like, then once I saw that, I said, well, no, we gotta get together. And because I played guitar, he played guitar. I remember I lent him a Fender Jaguar. He had a Fender Mustang, and he had to do something. And the Jaguar was a much more expensive model. So I did something I never do. I lent him my guitar because I love the guy. And he put tape on, electrical tape on the back. So he flipped it over. It said V. And, and you know, I had, like I said, I got 1,000 Vinny Graffeo.
So, okay, so how did you go from all of this kind of music to Aaron Carter? The one act you played with that my kids would like. How did you end up playing with Aaron Carter?
And my kid too, because when he was a kid, didn't mean anything to me, but he was thrilled. Jimmy Graylower. Jimmy was a producer, and he worked for Atlantic Records for 4 years as a VP over there. So Jimmy was and he called me to do some recording, a couple of for Aaron Carter, and his other group M2M. I recorded some stuff. I've done a lot of stuff with Jimmy, and Jimmy's a very, very talented guy and a talented producer.
Now, what is it like when you're playing on a track for like Aaron Carter? I mean, was it a good song? Did you like the music you were doing? Was it crap? Was it?
I don't know. We did I Go, or I Want Candies, and so to me it was just normal, But I didn't know who he was, At that point, Yeah, I mean, my kid, you know, he loved it. You know, he was a little
Right.
kid. I didn't, you know, I really kind of like got out of music in the early 70s. Like I'm really strong from 55 to 71. I'm like, you know, I have a crazy, I just remember every day I might have a date fetish. I always had a date fetish. I'll tell you a quick story. Um, we had a Plymouth Belvedere we got, and it was 57. The push button transmission on the passenger side.
Right.
When my father went to get rid of the car, he took it to the Zambucci brothers in Corona, and I drove with him. So the guy's looking the car over, and he sees in the back there's that little piece of cardboard under the back windshield, or whatever it's called, and it had 1958, 1959, 1960. I carved it in with a key. My father never knew about it. Who would look back there? And he didn't understand that, therefore it made him really agitated, even though he was getting rid of the thing, you know, got $75 for it. He couldn't understand it. So I don't understand it. I've told most people, I was always aware of the dates of everything. I remember everybody's birthday. I don't know what it is. People tell me it's a gift, but I never really understood it. Mary Lou Henner has this.
Yeah, I know Mary Lou. Yeah, she did. She gave us some exercises to help our memories.
Well, I don't have it to that extent. Although I do remember red letter dates, like the day Marilyn Monroe died, exactly where we were, and obviously those kind of things. But I can't remember. Like I don't have what she has, but I do, because music. I was always drawn to music. Of course, we were TV kids. We grew up. We were glued to TV. So it was TV, rock and roll, baseball, and football for me. You know, and because we didn't have this, you know. So if I had a yo-yo, I was good for a summer. You know, with that. Well, we had a game that, you know, we played that you know, you go like that and push a needle would spin and you move a wooden piece 4 moves. And that's, you know, so it was
That was the game of life where you used to spin the thing and.
right. Yeah, it was different growing up then, Vicki. I mean, you know, because you grew up at that time and we learned to socially interact. So he's my son, so he's comfortable with older people, and he has picked up a lot of my mannerisms, but some stuff I said to him, you know, you don't have it totally down yet. You know, you're a work in progress. But he's like a 50-year-old, this guy. And served him well in business, you know. I said, one of us needs to go legit. I said, one of us needs a proper job. My real claim to fame is I've never had a straight job.
I was going to ask you that. Never? You've never had?
No. I have some jobs, but I wouldn't call them straight jobs, you know. But
is your son musical?
yeah, and I have him with the greatest guitar teacher, Larry Salzman. He's one of the elite studio guitarists in New York, and he gives him like 3-hour lessons. Also, I know Larry for, you know, many years, and so he teaches my son. My son's his best student. And my son knows how to ask the right questions, and he's gotten quite good on the guitar, you know. So I never pushed it on him, you know, because I didn't want him. I said, you know, you have to have a proper job, even though he's in finance. I don't know how proper that is, but yeah, he's a good guy. We're buddies, you know. And sometimes if he's messy, I become his father, you know.
I have a 27-year-old son. He's a good guy too. He's also got a real job, which is a good thing. Real jobs are good. So, all right. So, how about Elvis Costello? What was your association with him?
That was a vinyl episode we recorded on the Backstabbers. Of course, he did it in a low key, and we did a phenomenal track. You can hear it go on YouTube. Elvis Costello, the Backstabbers. So we made a track that would rival what Tom Bell did or Gale. I mean, it was really great. And we did one other song. The title escapes me now. We had Victor Axelrod on piano, and he was part of the Amy Winehouse group, and Conrad Korsh on bass, who was with Rod Stewart for 100 years. He's incredible. And Elvis was cool. I'm the only one that didn't take a picture of him. Everybody wanted to take a picture, and I didn't want to do that with him. So I actually have a gift for him, a corporate event, and coming up next April at Mohegan Sun. So I'm gonna try to get him to come and sing a couple of songs to me.
Wow, you brought up a keyboardist, and I just wanted to say, I don't know if you knew Mike Finnegan, but I just wanted to pay respects. Mike Finnegan passed today, and it's a tragic loss to the world. But the first time I met Mike, I knew that he had played on Electric Ladyland, and he had played on Still Raining, Still Dreaming, which was like my favorite track from that Hendrix album. And I chased him down on his way to the bathroom, and oh my God, and anyway, he sat at this very table with me, and we had to sit down, like 2 years, not even 2 years ago, and just unbelievable vocalist, unbelievable keyboardist, and he will be sorely missed.
I hope it wasn't COVID.
No, it was not COVID. He had cancer. Yeah, he was horrible. Anyway, so I don't want to get morbid, but I just pay my respects.
Electric Lady, I recorded there a gazillion times, but first time I was there was when it first opened. The people that I work with at Associated Studios, they heard it was a happening thing. So we were there in 1970, and
wow.
And I've done a lot of vinyl and Boardwalk Empire with it there. And it's what can you say about it? I mean, it's just a tremendous place. And of course, the power station. We did a lot of recording there.
This was the album, the Hendrix double album. That was crazy. Yes. And so also another weird connection we have, not a connection, because Joey Sykes is just a Facebook friend of mine, but I saw a picture of you two, but Joey's singing in the Babies. And last week, John Waite, the original lead singer of the Babies, was on this show. Yeah. So that's another weird 6 degrees of just all over the place. So, Johnny, what is there anything that? So we haven't even talked about Kenny Vance and the Planetones, like this whole doo-wop thing that you do, that is like a whole different trip from your blues and your rock. What was that always part of your life? Well, you said you always knew the music.
I was there with it when I was doing the Flamingos. And I only have eyes for you. I was tuned into it, and I know every record that was out right in that moment. Dream Lover, Venus, or Frankie Avalon, because I watched American Bandstand every day.
Right.
And my grandparents got me a transistor radio in '59. I had that. Before that, we had a Philco portable radio with a cell battery. Remember being on the beach with hearing Seal Love by Phil Phillips in '59. So I knew every song, and if it was out airplay, I knew it, and I loved it. It was so like surreal. It might as well have been broadcast from Mars. I didn't know how they got it on this. I mean, I would hear these songs because it was the magical part of it was because I was so young, that I wasn't analytical. It was just the feeling that it emitted, that I felt was so powerful. Later on, when I was like in junior high school, I was drawn to a lot of songs that were depressive in nature, and I would play them and just be, it would just affect me. But I mean, music is, it's the antidote to all the bad, it really is. So what was the question?
I don't even remember, but that sounds like a good answer. The doo-wop, how you got into doo-wop.
Well, anyway, so Kenny, I was with Rainy and Rainbows, many years, 50 years ago. But we moonlight. We was the rock group. We were called Them and Us. They wanted me, and I ended up. My parents told me that you go to school, you go to work. So I said, let me ponder that. So I joined this band. I was the youngest and the oldest guy was born in 1938. But we really clicked because I knew all his music that, you know, the Gaylords and the Hilltoppers. So anyway, we were a rock band. We played 300 gigs a year. We lived together. And we used to moonlight as Raining and Rainbows because 3 of them were original members. The lead singer was Dominic Saputo, aka Randy. So we would play oldie shows, you know, and I forgot the question now. I'm starting to slip.
About doo-wop, how doo-wop.
Oh yeah, right. So anyway, Kenny was a Janie Americans. This was like the end of there in 1971, 72. And we used to play community gardens with them. The Hunka Munka, Mystic, Colossus, all these clubs in Queens. And it was a zoo because their double bill was big. So I became friendly with Marty Coopersmith, the guitar player. He was intrigued. He heard me play. And Kenny was a little standoffish in those days. And he's 10 years older. So, but you know, years later, when I was a little listening on the cruise tours, he became very interested in me. So I went to his house in 1992, and we had a great meeting. And so the next day, his manager called me, who was my manager in 1975. I was so incestuous and stuff. So
Right.
I said to him, well, he said, Kenny loves you, man. He wants to do something with you. So I said, fantastic. Let's talk about remuneration. And he said, I'll get back to you. And a few years later, we did. And I ended up, I played at, Kenny was, I did the soundtrack to Looking for an Echo. He needed some extra material and he needed me to finish some stuff that started. So I was producing it. And then he had a gig at, I don't know what it's called anymore. It was the big arena in Rutherford, New Jersey. What was Brendan Byrne Arena?
Brendan Byrne, yeah.
So he said, I need you to do the gig for me. All my guys. So I remember we had rehearsals in his basement. Alan Gordon was there, Gary Bonner. I brought a guy because I had to do so much singing instruction to assign parts that I said, by the time I get there, I'm not going to have a voice. So after we did that gig, I still looked pretty good then. This is like 2000 or something. That it was just like a little younger version of what you're seeing here. Yeah, they said you have to be in a group. Yeah, so I didn't declare myself, but at some point I partnered up with Kenny, and I ended up producing about 8 records for Kenny that he's done incredibly well with, including an a cappella record that was critically acclaimed. I did all the background vocals, and you know, I became Kenny's musical director and his guy. You know, so and that's my connection to the Bronx Tale because those guys.
That was my last question. The Bronx Tale. How did this happen?
It happened because, well, the beginning of the story is Tommy told him to see Billy Joel at the Garden, and he approached him about doing the music for Bronx Tale, and Billy didn't want to do it. So Tommy approached Mark Rivera, and Mark said, oh, yeah, I'm all in, you know, let me get Johnny Gale. So he reached out to Jimmy Braylauer, and the 3 of us got together. And then we went to Chaz's house, and I sat in, we wrote songs and recorded, and then it just died, as those things had to do. I remember we were up in the studio.
How long ago was that, Johnny?
In the beginning, maybe, I don't know, 2015 or something.
Because, you know, I saw Bronx Tale the first time he did it as a one-man show in a tiny little theater in East Harlem.
Right. No, this was,
like a zillion years ago.
Yeah, this was later. So they were, I guess Tommy was a music guy, you know, he was the
right.
So he said, you know, there's no music business infrastructure anymore, so I'm trying this. And I said, because I'm not a Broadway guy. I said, you know, he said, well, he wanted the authenticity. So I said, are you sure? And he said, I'm positive. So it died. I remember we were up at a studio up in Westchester, and I had the Soul Survivors there, and we did a session. And then they got bad news from Bob De Niro that it was off. So 6 months go by. I mean, I'm used to, you know, if you're in this business, you have to help a thick skin. I'm with my mother, who was 90 years old, God rest her soul. And I took her on some errands. So we pulled into the parking lot of CVS, and my phone rings, the cell phone rings. I picked up, it's Tommy. And he says, we're back on. I said, okay. He said, we got Alan Menken. I said,
Wow.
okay, my mother's listening. And I said, because I need you for authenticity. And I asked him again, are you sure? And he said, I'm positive. So yeah, I got involved like that, and I spent many hours taking Alan. He just said, Alan would send me stuff, and Tommy would tell me, turn it into something, make it something. And I did a lot. I even wrote the opening song. I didn't get credited for it. In lieu of it, they put me on salary. But that's another story, and I don't want to make anybody angry, but it was a great experience. I met, because it was only Broadway experience I had was when I was a kid. My mother took me to see Oklahoma or Oliver, and it was great. So I really got into the inner workings of it, and I would rehearse. There were 3 production companies that were co-producing it, and so I went up there to rehearse the cast. I tried to teach them how to manufacture doo-wop sounds, and I'd say, if you're making that face, you're never going to be able to make the sound. I said, now look at me and sing my face. all the
Wow.
honchos were there, and I did a lot of work with Ron Melrose, who was the arranger on the show. I did a lot of additional arranging, and the orchestrator used my demos to write the orchestrations on. His underscore was his. I didn't do that, but the songs I did a lot of work on. And then in the credits, I was like very featured in the credits and in the play. It was wild, And then it ended. De Niro made some disparaging remarks about our former president, and I knew that most of the constituents that loved that show were fans. And I watched it and I said, oh, we're going down in flames. And so anyway, the numbers started to be off and they weren't making a nut. And then, it ended. Maybe it'll come back, who knows? But I met a lot of great people through it, really talented people. And it was what an experience. And while I was doing that, I was doing Scorsese, I was doing vinyl. So I was really busy. And now I do landscaping in my backyard and I watch the reruns of the Rifleman,
So before we go to, thank you for all these stories. So moving ahead what calls you? I mean, you do so many things. You produce, you score, you do film, you do now Broadway. Do you have any ambition to write your own Broadway show, a musical, or anything like that?
I never had ambition. I never had ambition. And I don't want to be a guy that's like just gets old sitting on the couch. I can't be that guy. I'm always got to be physical with something, but I'm involved in some things, and people are involved, they're very passionate, so I don't know where it's going. I'm just happy that I'm healthy still and I'm able to show up for events, and I'm grateful for whoever's still around that I love and care about, so but I have no path that I'm on, so I suppose the way I've been, just have bundled into a few things. Once in a while, I never had a big bonanza, but a couple of little victories, every once in a while. Mostly a lot of defeats, kind of the nature of the business.
Yes, it is the nature of the business, but you are extraordinary, incredibly talented, and so gracious and fun. And thank you it was so nice to spend this time with you after all these peripheral things all these years. But I'm sure we were in a basement in 1971 in Bayside.
No doubt. I remembered you. Like you were like, I couldn't place it, but now that you came out of the box so strong that I got chills, and I said, oh, that might throw because I'm a pretty masterful sit-down comic. If I stand up, I know you sense of humor, but when I sit down, I can fire like a Gatling gun, But when you came out with that, I said, oh my God, I remember you, I remember you when you were a kid. I remember him. I mean, I got, you want to hear Vinny Graffeo stories? I got thousands of them. And
I definitely want to connect with Marty Miller because that is too funny. I have a very funny memory.
Marty lives in Florida, I think. I haven't been spoken to him in eons. We had a drummer, Marty Silverman, one time, but unfortunately was killed in an accident when he was a kid in 1970. A guy hit him, they were fooling around with a motorcycle. He got hit, he went down, and the next day he died. And I remember it was the first funeral I went to of a contemporary, and I just remember his mother crying Tatala. It was just went through me. I can feel it now. And it was, another drummer named Marty, and then Marty Miller became our drummer. Dennis Levine was the keyboard player. He was.
What was the name of your band with Vinny and Marty?
We called ourselves Flood, but a lot of bands, I've been in a lot of bands, and for some reason people like me to be in bands. I don't know what it is, Vicki. I think it's my sense of humor.
Well, you're a nice guy to have around, Johnny. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been a long time coming, and I look forward to a long friendship in the future.
My pleasure. Great talking to you, Vicki.
Have a great rest of your night. Take care, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.